Hello, welcome along everyone. This is the Sage CRM HQ team. Jeff and David here today, representing the rest of the dev team in Dublin and people further afield. We're here to talk to you about what's inside the latest release, that's Sage CRM 2022 R1, and Jeff and I will be guiding you through some of that material. Here's what we have on show today. We're going to have a quick update on commercial news, a little bit of that for you, and then Jeff, of course, will do most of the heavy lifting with my occasional chipping in of what's inside this current release. We'll also reflect on what's coming up to help you either as a customer or a reseller to understand the other resources available, and then we'll quickly wrap up our messaging for you. So let's make a start. Jeff, let's have a talk about the review of Sage CRM since we last talked to you around a release. I wanted to take a moment to remind everyone of Sage's commitment as a software group to the product. When I took over, along with Jeff's help, commercial management of the product back in mid-2019, thereabouts,
I think 2019 was the first version that was the implementation of the, well, you're going to be talking about the rolling
the rolling roadmap.
roadmap, but yeah, 2019 was our first baby.
Exactly. So we both thought we needed to increase the cadence of the messaging, calls to our internal stakeholders, calls out to customers and partners, things like that. And in particular, we wanted more regular updates around the release sessions like this one. So this is what this is all about. And it's for us, it's a constant talking reminder, a rejuvenation of the messaging around the value of Sage CRM for our customers. Part of the rejuvenation was this idea of a rolling roadmap. And as Jeff has already sort of stolen a minor piece of my thunder there, we want to talk about that in a second. But I did also want to remind you, if you've been a watcher of Sage CRM for a few years, that both our financial year 2020, which is 19 and 20, and the most recent year, 2021, were terrific years for Sage CRM. We're hearing stories from our colleagues around the globe of companies, our customers, investing in front office changes, partly driven by pandemics, no doubt, but improving processes to cut costs, improve efficiency, dealing with the realities of people working from home, and lots of other things. And that's really made for a tremendous uptick in new customers to the product. So this rolling roadmap of ours is important because with our biannual or twice yearly releases, if you prefer, what we're aiming to do is make sure that we tell a coherent story, not only of what's inside a particular release, but what's coming in the future. And this rolling roadmap approach, we hope, gives the development path and the confidence to you as a customer or a reseller partner about where we're heading and why we're going in that direction. So here we are, though. This is February 2022, and we're talking about 2022 R1. That's our current release, and we'll speak more on the specifics of that. Jeff will, particularly in a moment. I did, however, want to remind you of what we delivered last calendar year. That was 2021, 2 releases, 2021 R1, and no surprise, R2, the second one, so February and August last year. Now, they were significant releases. They delivered more than just simple incremental improvements. We're all about updating interfaces, the experience of using the product, trying to get rid of some pain points that are expressed to us from our support teams and our partner teams, and enhancing the integration capabilities for third-party solutions, as well as our own accounting solutions around the globe. You can see on screen what was inside the February 21, that's 2021 R1 release, as a quick summary of some of those messages. And in August 2021, our second release of that year, the R2 release, came out. And there's a reminder on screen of what the development team delivered to us. As Jeff and I say many times on these sessions, in blog posts and a lot more, new releases always give you the chance, if you're a customer, to come up with compelling reasons to upgrade to your management teams, your leadership teams. Sometimes because there's a nice new feature in there, other times because there've been significant updates because of compliance or bug fixes that actually are very important to the way you use your product. So certainly if you're a customer, do pay attention to what's carried out. And if you're a reseller partner viewing this, please take the opportunity to review the details of what's been inside the last 2021 releases and understand the significance of what was updated and why. And that will help you with your own reseller and marketing activities that around that sort of thing, right, Jeff?
Right, indeed. One of the things that we have to bear in mind, all right, anyone who's used Sage CRM will know about Sage CRM being a web-based product, but sometimes when we're just looking at it and scanning over websites, it's sometimes easy to think of it as another desktop type product. But remember, Sage CRM has a web-based architecture that gives customers the freedom and flexibility to choose what's best for their business. This may be on-premise, it may be in a private cloud implementation, or within a public cloud offering, or some sort of hybrid implementation, especially around integration. Now, we're executing within the context of Sage's strategy, a strategy to enable partners to deploy and customize their customers' accounting product online, which supports them to the journey to the cloud at a pace that suits them and their business. That's the same for Sage CRM as well. So building on last year's release, Sage CRM 2022 R1 can be installed not just within an Azure and Amazon environment, because it's got REST APIs, but specifically we can now support Azure SQL database. And that means that you've got not only the right tools to implement within a cloud environment, but you've also got modern REST APIs that allow for interoperability with customer systems wherever they're deployed. So Sage CRM is a great tool to support a customer wanting to move to the cloud at their own pace.
Very good. Yeah, it is good to remind people, because we were very much early to the web story way back when, and it's good to know that people should still remember that that's a real strength even in 2022. All right, thanks for that. Time to move on to the main activity now. The main act for today, the release that is 2022 R1. Here are the highlights, similar to the ones you've already seen for last year, on one slide. And each of these will be covered in more detail by Jeff in just a second. At the top level, though, the development team have further evolved the product to help with cost and implementation benefits with hosted environments, sort of the message that Jeff gave with Azure SQL there. We've been further improving the experience for the daily usage type users and the external developers to do more with searching, and in particular with that new extended piece or set of pieces for the REST API. We're also helping customers with their system performance with better mass delete capabilities to speed things up, get rid of some duff-old data if you don't need it, and more improvements for system admin people as well, both for customers and the reseller partners that might manage implementations on behalf of customers, with some updates to admin functions like log locations, mass updating, and some other things which Jeff will cover off shortly. Finally, too, another nice user experience, which came out of an end user request about the way email templates were laid out, but became something more. It's this idea of internal signatures and tabular layouts, and Jeff will cover that in a second. And we'll round up, as I noticed in the agenda, with some extra news on all the videos, the blogs, etc., that are coming down the pipe shortly. But with that as my top level intro, Jeff, over to you to dive into the detail.
Well, I'm going to start by looking at the REST API improvements. We're trying to make incremental improvements to all of the APIs in every release. So we're trying to deliberately add more features and make it a more capable API, as well as improving other aspects around this. I should say that we've made some improvements in documentation, but probably the most interesting thing in the REST API improvements this year is to do with the way in which we've taken the quick find feature that we had added in. So we've got this endpoint that calls for quick find. That was added in 2021 R1, where that was searching for a string like Eurolandia across multiple entities, company, people, case, opportunities, etc. We can now take that and narrow down and say, well, tell you what, we want to do a quick find, but looking at a specific entity. So you know it's in a communication record, so we can go down and have a look at it in a communication record. So the RESTful API supplied with this release, we've now got a new optional entity parameter available so that search entities on the entities used for the quick find can be narrowed down, and that means that it's a little bit more useful in the way in which we work. So there, as I said, there have been other changes to, especially around documentation, to provide clarification on the way in which the API can be configured. That's working around if you've got multiple different whether you're coming in through, say, a subdomain, or whether your CRM is sitting there with a particular, you're referencing the IP address or an internal fully qualified domain name. So it's what you want as the way in which it returns back the result sets and the ID that is used. But going on away from that down into one of the other features, which is David talked about, the mass delete of historic communications, which is really about clearing down redundant communications to improve system response and performance, and to make sure the system only contains the data that you need. This has been largely driven around requests from customers with very long tail existence of CRM, where they are very heavily creating communications. So you imagine a site that is a retail site, customer selling, lots of different communications going out. They may be generating thousands of communications a year for each user. They're ending up with very inflated databases. To improve the system performance, then you can reduce the size of the CRM database by saying, right, historic information 7 years ago, that's no longer relevant to us. We're no longer selling those products, for example. We know that those types of conversations aren't needed for us. So what you can do is you can take a hard delete on data that you no longer needs, and this is a permanent delete from the database, and the only way to recover them is to restore the database from a backup. So it is very much important that you back up the database. You can't actually progress with the delete of the information until you have actually confirmed that. Once you've confirmed that, you can set the you can decide how long ago you want the data to be removed from. So, it's typically 5 years, that's the default. You can't select a date that is less than 1 month ago, but once you've chosen the date that you want is the cutoff date, you confirm that you've backed up the database, you confirm that you understand that the deletion is permanent, and then you can click delete and it's gone. Well, actually, you have to confirm that you want it to go, and then it's gone. If there's a problem during the delete, then the delete is cancelled and no changes are made to the system. We've tried to do belt and braces on this, making sure that people have backed up and know that this is a serious change. Another change, which is a nice little change, again to do with watching systems as they inflate the amount of associated data on a server. If you're running your server with a lot of logging on there, you can now take advantage of the fact that you're supported to change the default log locations using the idea of a make link and create what's called a directory junction using the make link tool. So System Administration Guide has been updated to provide instructions how to store the log files to a different folder. And if we look at this, we can understand that we could move these out to a completely different directory on the machine. So these are steps. These, by the way, are only applicable if your machine uses NTFS, but you can put it anywhere that you like. It's a simple set of actions that you run through the command prompt as a system administrator. So you stop the web server, you create the junction, you create the new file, you rename your original path, you then create a directory junction for the original log files folder, pointing to the new folder, and it runs all very, very neatly once you've done the IIS restart, and that will repoint any of the creation of the logs to that new folder. Again, we've made another change that should be of interest to system administrators, and this is to do with the in a mature system where you've got lots of records within leads, cases, and opportunities, and you need to reallocate those to a different security territory as the commercial needs and the commercial arrangements of the system change. So we've got a new update territory on leads, cases, and opportunities. This is all about allowing a system administrator to reassign groups of those records to new security territories without having to run any SQL behind the scenes. And it does allow data to be updated and realigned as a business changes. So you'll need to make sure that your users can carry out mass operations. Those mass operations are not only the territory update, but also the general bulk update, mass update of records as well. The territory update button will appear on groups of leads, cases, and opportunities for users with those rights. We have added as well some integrity updates in this version. We know that Sage CRM is increasingly being integrated into back office systems where the common denominator for the identity of the user is the email address. What we've done here is we've extended an existing requirement for each user to have a unique email address. We'd already implemented that within Sage CRM, but now we've extended this to situations where a system administrator or an info manager edits an existing user and tries to give them the same email address as another user. So you can't now have users sharing email addresses. So you can't save the changes until every user has a unique email address within the system. And this is all about an improvement in data integrity and providing benefits for customers, especially when systems are interlinked with both other front and back office systems. Now, as I said, this is to do with integrity of the users, but just think about a notification or an email going out and alerting people. You now need to make sure that the right message goes to the right person to avoid any potential problems. So you don't want the wrong email message going to the wrong person. Okay.
We've all been
We've all been there. Now, we've made another change. This is very much to the user's experience, and it's a minor change, but it's a useful one. It's to do with making sure that a user has control over the information that is shared in emails. What we've done is we've allowed a user to control whether or not their signature is included within replies and forwards. Hopefully you know that setting up a personal email signature for a user is an existing feature inside the system. That's done within the user's preference screen. It's covered within the user guide. And what you can do now is to, within your preferences, indicate whether the checkbox to insert your email signature goes into both new emails and when replying to or forwarding emails. And if you clear the checkbox, your email signature only goes into the new emails.
Right.
Okay. Now, we just show how that works. So you have navigate to look at the email communication, and if you click the reply and email button, you'll see here what's is created. In this particular case, I've chosen to have my email addresses included, my signature included. Okay, staying on the theme of around emails, I want to look at so another nice little change that benefits users, which is the resizable table columns in HTML templates and documents. Now, this was a feature designed to allow users to create table columns that can be resized within an email template to control the width of each column and the layout of the generated table. This is really to do with making sure that the documents appear as you want them to appear. So it's allowing users to make sure that the layout for emails and HTML documents is correct, and to improve the layout for all tabular information in emails and documents. Now, it's originally specifically designed for email templates. So if you have a look at an email template, what you'd be able to do now in 2022 R1 is to be able to slide the column width to be whatever you need it to be, controlling the layout, and it will work within the context of the template. It will work in the context of the generated email. It will even work, and this is the benefit where it goes on and benefits all tables and HTML documents and emails as well. So we've implemented a system-wide change to answer a particular issue, and that's created a big, well, it's a little big change in the sense that it improves the presentation of a wide range of things. Another little change that we've implemented is really to make a feature work consistently across the system, and this is to do with the auto refresh of the calendar and calendar list. We've had for a while, if we look on to this slide, which is showing the setup screen, one of the administration screens, we've got the time associated with the case list, opportunity list, and communication lists. These all have a time, which means what's their refresh interval.
Yeah.
Now what we've done is we've added the calendar and calendar list feature which is really within the My CRM area of the user's experience. So that changes, that has a pulse to as new records come in, as new information comes in, that's updated as well. A change that we've implemented in this version is one of the positioning changes. We know that we have to be moving in the direction to support the subscription management. We've got a call home feature now, which is going to display the version and license key information to system administrators. This is under control. So it gives system administrators the information they need, where they need it, and will help ensure customers stay current on the supported versions to improve security and the value of their system. So this is all about, as you come into the system administration screens, you can, within system behavior, decide that what you want to do is to have displayed the version and license key information. That would be within the administration screens. So that's the control of it. Okay.
Lovely. Thank you. So that's Jeff's heavy lifting, at least for the moment, on the new release. But of course, there's always more than just product, as we have said many times. For those of you particularly in a marketing role, either a reseller or indeed sort of a system champion, if you're inside a customer, there's other things that would be useful for your role. And let me hand back to Jeff to walk through some of these things, including assistance updates, documentation, and so on. Jeff.
Thanks. Thank you very much, David. Now, if you're working with Sage CRM, you know the most valuable thing for you to know is help.sagecrm.com. So the first place for you to look around the features and supported environments for all of the supported versions of Sage CRM is the Help Center. And as you would expect, the Help Center has been updated with all of the release notes, guides, and online help. Actually, we typically get the Help Center updated at least a day before the release of the software. So the documentation has changed to support the new features. We've seen changes to the user guide and the system administration guide. So we've got information about how to perform an update territory on groups of leads, cases, and opportunities, how to insert the signature into replies and forwards, and how to resize table columns and email templates. They're all example changes within the user guide. The system administration guide has been updated to include the implementation of Sage CRM on an Azure SQL database, how to carry out a mass delete on historic communications, how to change the default log locations, how to work with the auto refresh of calendar and calendar list, and to control the display of version and license key information, as well as changing default log locations as well. The release notes go into some detail, well, go into complete detail on all of the issues and enhancements addressed. So all of the look in the release notes, you'll know exactly what we've done within 2022 R1. All of these changes are documented, as I said, in the Help Center, and we will have corresponding training material up on the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, thank you. Reminder too from all of us, and looping back to beginning of this presentation, it is in everyone's best interest, customer or if you are one of our reseller partners, to understand the new features, ensuring that you do apply, particularly where there are security patches, as soon as you possibly can. And a way to do that, of course, is use the help site to understand what's coming in, what needs to be fixed, etc., etc. The diagram you're seeing right now helps you to understand the way to make an upgrade happen. So the point of that slide there is to show you that customers are supported in their upgrades from 2019 onwards, straight from the 2022 package. So that you just can run that and it brings everything in and aggregates all the changes over the last year or so. However, if you're on an older release than that, you do need to go through the recommended iterations based on the last lot of documentation we put out the door to get people up through versions, right, Jeff?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Anything else you want to highlight here? Or no, I think we've covered that off. We're good with that.
I think we're done here.
Okay. Jeff touched on the help site. So yeah, always bookmark this wherever you can. That's where the latest documentation goes up and typically goes up first. You can see not only the help and the documentation, but also the support lifecycle is up there as well. So when versions are coming to the end of their official support, doesn't mean they'll stop working, just means we have an official support end date. That's something you should be aware of and plan your releases or upgrades appropriately. Jeff, a bit on support as well, particularly with the Azure story. What can you tell us?
Well, we've added support for Azure SQL. So that means that you can, if you've got an Azure virtual machine, you can create a database there and you can carry out a new installation of Sage CRM and connect to a Microsoft Azure SQL database. Okay. So that means the setup process will create a new database and store the Sage CRM database data there. That's extremely useful. It puts us into a very good position when it comes to preparedness around you as a partner customer working with with an Azure cloud implementation, and it also sits very well with the messaging around Sage Partner Cloud as well. Yeah. And there'll be more news about that in a week or so, I think. Okay.
Great.
Right. Oh, there are other changes as well in terms of supported software. Microsoft SQL Server 2019 Express is now the implementation of Express that is shipped with the product, and we've added in this release support for Windows 11. Please note, this is support for Windows 11 is from this release, so this is to do with users accessing Sage CRM from client machines running Windows 11.
So probably best to embellish that a bit more, right?
Oh yes, this is a very important set of messages to understand. Now, there's a little bit of history in this where we are here, because we announced in May 2021 that Sage CRM 2021 R2 would be the last version to have its user interface tested using Microsoft Internet Explorer 11. So that means support for IE 11 as a browser has ended from Sage CRM 2022 R1. Right. Okay, so we aren't testing with that. There are changes as well to support Windows 11. Now, Windows 11 has come in. We're now supporting that, and there's the dropping of support for Internet Explorer has implications for upgrading the customer site is using Outlook integration. Right. So I've written a article up on the community called Thinking About Outlook Integration, Internet Explorer and Windows 11. And that's got a FAQ associated with it as well. Probably the biggest message to get across at the moment is that Sage CRM 2022 R1 is the only version of Sage CRM to support Windows 11. Customers who rely on the classic or light Outlook plugins are advised not to upgrade to Windows 11. So why? Well, we explained in an advisory, as I said, in May, that we're not going to be supporting Internet Explorer. There's a further advisory in December 2021 that we made the comment about not upgrading to Windows 11 if you depended on the classic and light Outlook plugins. This is because the heart of it goes to Internet Explorer 11 is not supported on Windows 11. It can't be installed on the operating system. This means that there are features in Sage CRM, that's the plugins that use ActiveX technology, that will not work in the context of Windows 11. 2022 R1 is the only version of Sage CRM to support Windows 11, and therefore don't go upgrading.
Okay.
We've got a further bit of thought about this, is that the desktop IE11 anyway is no longer going to be supported by on Windows 10 for connection to Microsoft services from June of 2022. So it's a something to be aware of as well. Importantly, we are currently redesigning all of the email management features, which are functionally equivalent to the plugins for 2022 R2.
Gotcha. Thank
Yes.
you. Yes. So do make sure you do the reading that Jeff has suggested, because there's lots of 11s floating around and occasionally people go, what? But it's an important thing to recall because of the changes brought down to us from Microsoft. All right. So in summary, here's another view of taking the who benefits and why top-down look at the release. We've improved user experiences through signature replies in emails, resizable table columns, HTML. The auto refresh, as Jeff alluded to, in calendar and calendar lists are in there. And for implementers and people who are looking after installations, support for SQL Azure, support and changes for where you store your log locations. There's a number of different features around the sysadmin area, including historic communications and getting rid of redundancy there or things you don't need. Territory management is improved yet again, and some changes to data integrity and license viewing as well. So lots of good things inside that release, and I think it's worth pointing out some additional content that Jeff has spoken to, particularly around Windows 11, but more generally in terms of what's coming down as video, blog content, etc. Right, Jeff?
Right, that's right. So we've got lots of new resources in development. I'm constantly creating new video scripts and things. You'll start to see those very soon up on the YouTube channel, all aiming to help partners support customers. And so all our videos are going to be targeted on specific topics.
Okay.
Within the context of Sage City, there are new articles and resources being up there, so going up there. So that's a searchable resource that allows you to find the things that you need as well.
And particularly on that screen there, this is an appeal for all of you who are in customer facing, either internal to a customer, as in you're the stakeholder or the champion, but if you're in a partner role as well, please always remember to check Sage City first. It is the best source of information, and Jeff puts particularly a lot of time into blogging and providing updates through that platform. Start there. It's always our recommendation. Thanks, Jeff, for the overview. We are reflecting again on another busy release, 2022 R1. This is the result, the ongoing rejuvenation of our rolling 3-year roadmap for Sage CRM, which started back in 2019. We want it to provide comfort to you, whether you're a partner or a customer, about the statement of both the technical direction and the commercial intent of the product. It's important that you understand our commitment to the product, what's coming, what we've done, and why we do what we do. But for now, thanks, Mr. Richards, for your overview. Thank you for coming along, and we hope that you enjoy this release of Sage CRM 2022 R1.
Bye-bye.